Okay, well, this is from the New York Post. It says, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis launched an offensive against big tech on Tuesday, warning that the social media platforms are targeting politicians like former President Donald Trump now, but will soon be coming for regular American citizens, vowing to combat the threat. He said in a news conference, quote, today they may come after someone who looks like me. Tomorrow they come after someone who looks like you. As he was announcing the Transparency in Technology Act. As part of his measure, DeSantis suggested fines of $100,000 per day for deplatforming political candidates, as well as daily fines for any company that, quote, uses their content and user-related algorithms to suppress or prioritize the access of any content related to a political candidate or cause on the ballot. The governor also called for allowing people to opt out of content algorithms, requiring notification about changes in terms of service, and providing the right of citizens to take legal action if these conditions are violated. All of this is great. This is all exactly what Republicans should have done this years ago. On the federal level, and they could have at least tried. They didn't even try. Trump didn't try. None of them tried when they had the chance. This is exactly what needs to happen. And some of this should be totally uncontroversial. So, yeah, if you want to, we could have a debate about rules that stop social media companies from censoring political content or political candidates. I think there should be those rules. But something like notification about changes in terms of service? Yeah, that is basic transparency that we expect and legally require of most any other company. And oftentimes companies that don't have nearly the kind of power and control over you that big tech companies do. That's all that is. What's the argument against it? You know, if they're gonna make a change, at a minimum, if they're gonna make a change to the terms of service, you signed up for the site thinking one thing, and then they start tinkering with it and changing it. They should have to tell you that. And again, at a minimum, if Twitter wants to decide that it's going to start purging conservative accounts, as they have been doing, which is why all conservatives are losing their Twitter followers, they should, at a minimum, have to tell us that they're doing it and explain why. Basic transparency that we require of any other company. DeSantis, we'll play some of the clips from this because I just think it's great. Here he is talking about some of the things that prompted this and discussing what Twitter did with the New York Post story and how that's motivating some of what he's doing now. Let's watch.
Hunter Biden's story was true, okay? We now know it was true. And the typical corporate media outlets, they just chose to ignore it. Obviously, they wanted to beat Trump. They had a view on the election. They didn't want to give it any air. So we rely on social media to go around that, not let corporate legacy media outlets control the discourse and let us speak. So you had the New York Post to run it, and you couldn't get any traction. You couldn't get any reach on it because big tech put their thumb on the scale. So that was true. What they said at the time, oh, it's a conspiracy, or it's based on hacked information. Are you kidding me? You're trying to tell me if there was hacked information that could damage me, you guys wouldn't print it? Give me a break. You can whiz on my leg, but don't tell me it's raining. You guys would print it every single day if you could. And big tech would allow it to proliferate every single day, 24/7. So it's not being done on a principled basis. And it's not, there's threats on me. And it only gets taken down if law enforcement goes and tells them to do it. Otherwise, it just stays up. They're not moderating any of that.
Oh, he's absolutely right. And if, once again, Twitter wants to shut down the New York Post story, and yes, that is influencing the election. Now, maybe you could argue that it wouldn't be influencing the election quite as much, at least not influencing it in a dishonest way, if Twitter just came out and said, listen, we're a liberal company, we're a left-wing company, this is how we run things. We're not interested in conservative content. The content that we're going to highlight and put in front of your eyes, that's going to be left-wing content. And if there's a story that we don't like for political reasons, we're going to get rid of it. At least if they came out and said that, then everyone would know where they stand, and the bias would maybe be a little bit less harmful. That's why I tend to think that bias from, a news organization like CNN, if we can call them a news organization, but the bias from CNN it's indefensible, but it's also not very harmful because everybody knows what they're getting with CNN, even if they don't admit it. Still, everyone knows. Now, with Twitter, there are still a lot of people who use Twitter and are oblivious to this. They think they're getting an accurate reflection. What they think is happening is that when they go to their news feed on Twitter or Facebook, that they're going to be exposed to news and they're going to find out what's going on. It's what most people think. So Twitter should have to be honest about that. And here's DeSantis touching on something that I also feel. I mean, we talk about the bias from Twitter, which is very concerning, but that doesn't even hold a candle to what happened to Parler. Let's listen to DeSantis on that.
What really, I think, scared me was the decapitation of Parler. It wasn't just some of that stuff. It was the web hosting, the payment processing, take away your email, your text. You could totally neuter a candidate's ability to communicate and execute a campaign plan. So once we have that situation, they can't deplatform you without consequence. And look, I don't know that there has been, in 2020, we'd have to look, I don't know that there has been a candidate that got wiped off the map. But you see the way this is going, and I think that protection is very well warranted, and I think it should be there. And just think, if you're in October of 2022 and you have a state Senate race or something, and they deplatform one of the two candidates, that's going to have a huge impact on the outcome of the race.
Yeah, Parler, we could talk about the bias from Twitter and Facebook. As I said, that's bad enough. But what they did with Parler, they just came in and, he says, decapitated. Good word for it. They just came in and wiped it out. They didn't like Parler, said, no, you can't have that. For years, we were told, if you want your own kind of social media platform, then go set up your own social media platform. All right, we won't bother you over there. Isn't that always the trajectory? Isn't that always the theme with the left? They say, oh, no, we won't bother you. Just keep it to yourself. Keep it in private, and that's fine. We won't bother you. And so people went to Parler, and they said, fine, we'll start our own thing. We're going to go over here to Parler. And enough people went over there, and then the left said, nah, never mind, you can't have that either. Yeah, it is time for legislative solutions to this problem. So I'm glad that DeSantis is getting the ball rolling. And I say again, Ron DeSantis 2024. He's definitely my early frontrunner. Hey, listen, hit the subscribe button. Do it right now. I demand it. And I thank you for your compliance. It is somewhat appreciated.